I matched with someone and regretted it immediately. Welcome, dear viewers, to a story that begins with hope and ends in a darkness few ever escape. This is not a tale of romance. It is a slow descent into terror, regret, and the kind of tragedy that lingers like London fog. Lock your doors, dim the lights, and whatever you do, keep reading. Rain lashed the windows of my Shoreditch flat like accusatory fingers. I stood with my back pressed against the front door, chest heaving, blood trickling warm down my side. The chain lock rattled as my hands shook uncontrollably. Outside, the East London streets roared with the usual Friday night chaos. Sirens in the distance, laughter from late drinkers spilling out of pubs along Brick Lane, the endless patter of water on cobblestones. But inside, silence pressed down like a tomb. "What have I done?" I whispered to the empty hallway. "God, what have I done?" 3 weeks earlier, my life had felt merely empty. Now it was shattered. My name is Alex Thompson, 32 years old, graphic designer, divorced, the kind of man London chews up and spits out without a second glance. My ex-wife Sarah had left 6 months ago, taking our border collie and half the furniture to a bright new life in Brighton. The flat in the converted Victorian terrace felt cavernous. Evenings stretched into lonely voids filled with microwave meals and scrolling through endless profiles on dating apps. That Tuesday night, after another long day at the studio off Brick Lane, I downloaded Spark again. The app promised meaningful connections in a city that thrived on superficial ones. I updated my profile, decent photos from a recent trip to Cornwall, a bio mentioning my love for old bookshops, strong coffee, and long walks by the Thames. Nothing special, just another lonely soul casting a line into the digital void. Then she matched with me. Eleanor Voss. Her first photo stopped me cold. She stood on the Millennium Bridge at twilight, chestnut hair catching the last light, the Thames shimmering behind her like liquid gold. Green eyes looked straight into the camera with quiet confidence. Her bio read, book lover with a terrible cooking habit, excellent at getting lost in new cities, seeking someone who appreciates rain, good stories, and doesn't mind spontaneous adventures. She had 187 likes already, but she had swiped on me. Eleanor, hi Alex. Your profile caught my eye. Strong coffee and old bookshops. In this city, that's basically a public service. Care to prove you're not all talk? I smiled for the first time in weeks. We talked until 2 a.m. She was quick-witted, quoting Sylvia Plath one moment and sending voice notes with a soft Yorkshire lilt the next. She said she was 28, originally from York, now living in a cozy flat in Camden, freelance photographer specializing in urban landscapes, recently out of a bad relationship. She asked thoughtful questions about my divorce, never prying too deep, always leaving space for me to speak. By the third night, we were voice calling. Her laugh was warm, slightly husky. You sound like someone who needs rescuing from his own flat. Alex Thompson. I laughed too. Maybe I do. We arranged our first meeting for the following Saturday in Bloomsbury. The British Museum area, safe, cultured, public. Perfect. I arrived early at the independent bookshop on Museum Street. Heart hammering, the place smelled of aged paper, leather bindings, and faint coffee from the tiny cafe at the Back, shelves reached toward the high ceiling, ladders on rails for the top rows. I pretended to browse a section on Victorian literature while keeping one eye on the door. The bell tinkled. She stepped in, shaking rain from a cream trench coat, dark red scarf loose around her neck. Taller than I expected, perhaps 5'9", with an elegant posture that made her seem even taller. Those green eyes found mine instantly. "Alex," she said, smiling. Her voice matched the voice notes perfectly. "You look exactly like your photos. That almost never happens." We spent nearly 3 hours in that shop. She pulled out first editions, her fingers tracing spines with genuine reverence. We discussed *Wuthering Heights* passionately, how Heathcliff's obsession mirrored the destructive power of love. She recommended Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca*. I bought it for her on impulse. In return, she bought me a beautiful collection of Wilfred Owen's war poetry. "You have kind eyes," she said as we left, slipping her arm through mine. "That's rare these days." The rest of that first date blurred into magic. Coffee turned into a walk through Russell Square Gardens, leaves crunching underfoot. She told stories of growing up in York, exploring the city walls as a child. I shared the pain of my divorce. When we parted near King's Cross, she kissed my cheek. "I'd like to do this again, soon." The next 2 weeks were intoxicating. We met almost every other day. A picnic in Regent's Park where she fed me strawberries and laughed when juice ran down my chin. Evening strolls along the South Bank, the London Eye glowing against a purple sky. Barges moving silently on the Thames. She cooked pasta in my Shoreditch kitchen, oversalted and slightly burnt, but we ate it anyway, drinking cheap red wine and talking until the early hours. One night she stayed over. Her touch was gentle yet urgent. In the morning light, filtering through my bedroom curtains, she traced the scar on my shoulder from a childhood accident and whispered, "I feel safe with you, Alex, safer than I've felt in years." I was falling hard, yet small cracks began to appear if you looked closely. During our third date, at a quiet pub in Islington, I mentioned Sarah's name. Eleanor's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, her green eyes hardening like frost on glass, before warmth returned. "She didn't deserve you," she said softly. Another evening, while walking through Hyde Park, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, face paling slightly, and silenced it. "Just work," she claimed. But I noticed her checking over her shoulder more often after that. The real test came with a weekend trip she suggested. "Let's escape the city," she said one Thursday evening, curled against me on my sofa. "The Lake District, fresh air. Mountains, no distractions, just us." I agreed. We left early on Friday morning in my old Volvo estate, driving north on the M1, then the M6. She sang along to Radio 6, voice surprisingly good. We stopped at services near Manchester for coffee and pastries. The further north we went, the more the landscape opened, rolling fells, dry stone walls, dramatic clouds racing across vast skies. We rented a charming stone cottage near Keswick, overlooking Derwentwater, low oak beams, a wood-burning stove, and windows framing the mountains. That first evening was perfect. We hiked a gentle path around the lake at sunset, water lapping gently. She took photographs of me, wind whipping my hair, laughing freely. But that night, after we made love in the creaky double bed. I woke at 3:17 a.m. to an empty space beside me. Faint whispering came from the living room. I crept to the door. Eleanor stood by the window in darkness. Phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was ice. I told you I'm handling it. No. He doesn't suspect a thing. Just stay out of London until I give the word. Don't make me regret this. She ended the call. In the window's reflection, her face looked utterly different, sharp, calculating, devoid of the warmth I knew. I slipped back into bed, pulse racing. When she returned and pressed her cold body against mine, I pretended to sleep. Sleep never came. The next day she was sunshine again. We climbed Cat Bells, the views breathtaking, Derwentwater sparkling far below, Skiddaw and Blencathra standing sentinel. She kissed me at the summit, wind tearing at our coats. For a few golden hours, I convinced myself I had imagined the phone call. Back at the cottage that evening, doubt gnawed while she showered. I checked my phone. Her *** profile had vanished. Deleted entirely. Her Instagram, previously full of London scenes, now showed nothing older than 3 weeks. Fresh account. When I asked casually over dinner, roast chicken she had somehow not ruined, she sighed. Fresh start. My ex was stalking me. Violent. I needed to disappear online. I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry, Alex. Tears welled. She looked so vulnerable. I held her, stroking her hair, believing every word. We returned to London on Sunday. Rain greeted us on the M6. As she slept in the passenger seat, I noticed her bag on the back seat. A corner of glossy paper protruded. Heart pounding, I reached back while driving and pulled it free. It was a printed photograph, me, standing at my Shoreditch window, taken from across the street. The date stamp, 2 weeks before we matched. My stomach plummeted. I slid it back with trembling fingers. That night in my flat, I confronted her gently after dinner. Eleanor, is there something you're not telling me? She stared at the floor, then looked up with perfect tears. My ex, he's dangerous. He's been following me for months. That's why the new profile. I was scared you'd think I was crazy if I told you too soon. She cried in my arms for a long time. I comforted her. Fool. The following week, her presence in my flat intensified. Clothes in my wardrobe, camera gear on the table, a spare key she made just in case. She worked from my living room, editing photos of London rooftops. At night she checked every lock twice. Sometimes I heard her whispering on the phone again. Then came Thursday, the night everything broke. I had worked late at the studio, finalizing a big branding project. It was past 10 p.m. when I climbed the stairs to my flat. Exhausted, but looking forward to seeing her. The lights were off except for one lamp. Eleanor sat on the sofa, staring at the wall. Her hands rested in her lap, covered in dark, glistening blood. Alex, she whispered, voice flat. He found me. A kitchen knife lay on the floor. Blood had pooled and was slowly spreading across the wooden boards. I rushed forward. Are you hurt? We need an ambulance, police. She looked up slowly. The tears were absent. Her green eyes were calm, terrifyingly calm. It's not my blood. The room tilted. My mind screamed. His name was Daniel. She continued conversationally. He worked with my previous partner. Started asking too many questions. Getting too close. I had to stop him. I backed away toward the door. What are you saying? She stood gracefully, the same elegant movement I had once found beautiful. I don't do this often, Alex. But you were perfect, recently divorced. Distant parents. Your mother passed 2 years ago. Father in Scotland and estranged. No siblings. No close friends who would notice quickly. A blank canvas for a new life. My back hit the wall. Rain hammered harder outside. You're insane, I breathed. No, she replied softly, picking up the knife. I'm practical. Daniel is in your bathtub right now. I'll clean this, then we disappear together. Cornwall, perhaps. You always said you loved it there. We'll start fresh, just you and me. I lunged for the door handle. She moved like lightning. Pain exploded in my left side as the blade sank in. Hot deep, I screamed and swung wildly, fist connecting with her jaw. She staggered back into the coffee table. Blood soaked my shirt. I wrenched the door open and stumbled down the narrow stairs, leaving red handprints on the walls. Neighbors' doors opened. Someone shouted. I collapsed into the wet street, rain mixing with my blood. Sirens came. The police found Daniel's body in my bathtub, throat cut cleanly. A man in his 30s from Manchester, reported missing days earlier. Fingerprints and DNA on a leaner matched a woman wanted across the UK and Europe. Real name, Amelia Hart. Suspected in the disappearances and murders of 4 men over 9 years. Manchester. Edinburgh, Bristol, now London. Each victim had matched with a charming, bookish woman who then vanished after the killing. She had used multiple identities, fabricated backstories, and chosen lonely, isolated men, perfect victims. They never caught her that night. She slipped away into the London rain. I spent 17 days in the Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel. The knife had missed vital organs by centimeters. A detective inspector from Scotland Yard, a weary man named Hargreaves with a Leeds accent, sat by my bed daily. He showed me files, photos of other smiling men, other Eliners. You're one of the lucky ones. Mr. Thompson, he said on the last day, closing his notebook. Most don't make it out to tell the tale. Lucky, the word tasted like rust. When I was discharged, the flat had been professionally cleaned, but I could still smell blood in my nightmares. I packed a single bag that afternoon and drove north, leaving London behind forever. My aunt's old stone cottage near Hawes in the Yorkshire Dales became my refuge. Remote, windswept moors, stone walls, and silence broken only by sheep and rain. I walk the Pennon Way some days, trying to outpace the memories, but every chestnut-haired woman in Settle or Hawes makes my heart seize. Every notification on my phone feels like a threat. I still wake at 3:17 a.m. I still check the locks 4 times. And sometimes, in the dead of night, I wonder if she's out there, swiping right on another lonely soul in another English city, building another perfect lie. Some matches don't just break your heart, they end your life. The end. Good luck out there in this unpredictable world. Stay safe. Trust slowly, and never ignore the warning signs. If this tale haunted you, or kept you on the edge of your seat, stay tuned on this channel for more gripping, emotional stories filled with suspense and human drama. Please subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next. Your support keeps these stories alive.